I've tried to record this vlog something like 4 times, and every time so far, something has gone wrong. Either I didn't turn the mic on, or I stumbled partway through, or like I didn't plug the light in. Like there have just been so many reasons to bundle this vlog up and throw it away and just, I don't know, apologize on Twitter tomorrow for not having a vlog. But fuck that. Fuck that. I'm not gonna let this random frustration chain get me down. I'm gonna make a vlog and we're gonna talk about some shit and I'm gonna publish it. Ooh, you wait and see. I'm deep in the weeds today. It's the combination of like holiday bullshit and I've just been having a rough time of it and I'm all up and down this week and I'm just not feeling it. I cannot wait for this BS holiday season to be over and for us to just go back to normal, right? To stop being told that it's a family day and you should be with your family. And if you're not among friends opening presents and eating turkey and shit, then you are failing. And all that pressure, talking about it yesterday and feeling it really aggressively today, has kind of got me thinking about how much of the kind of narrative of the day-to-day existence of a North American person I just don't fit into. Don't have a 9-to-5 job. I'm not a straight person. I'm not married. I don't have a roommate or a live-in girlfriend. I don't do relationships. I don't do job stuff. I don't do family in the same way that the prevailing narrative is. And I know that this probably sounds like, ooh, look how like cool and different and weird I am. But honestly, like most of the time it just sucks and is alienating and frustrating. I wanted to talk a little bit about like relationship stuff and kind of what got me thinking about doing Hot for Teacher and my own kind of views on relationships. And I think that it's like a much larger point than that. I think the reason that relationships matter to me is because everything that I really care about is the interaction of people, right? Of the way in which an individual person formed of their thoughts and their feelings and their ideas about the world and themselves, how they interact with any other individual person, right? Those kinds of connections are so interesting to me and they permeate everything, right? Everything that I do. Taking photographs of people is a form of relationship, right? Streaming to my chat audience is a kind of relationship. And the fact that I am a non-monogamous, aromantic, queer person comes into those interactions in varying degrees. When we talk about relationships, most of the time we think about relationships that matter, right? We put on a level of romance or sex or even time. Chronology affects how deeply we value relationships. And I think that there's just so much more to being a person and engaging with other people than just looking at like your boyfriend, right? Like, I feel like, and there's so many people I know right now getting married and having babies and following that script. And honestly, like some part of me is really envious. Some part of me is like, not envious of having a baby or getting married, but envious that their life and the narrative of the lives of the imagined average person, they mesh so nicely. I'm envious of that in a way, because for me, I spend so much time trying to explain myself or how I feel or why the things that sometimes people expect or need from me, they're not going to get them. And I feel like I'm constantly battling this prevailing narrative, right? Where even with people, and there was a really great question about this on Hot for Teacher this week, where somebody said, you know, I'm trying to get out there. I'm a non-monogamous person and I'm trying to date people and I'm trying to be in relationships. I'm trying to put that out there. But I keep running into people where I'm like, okay, I have to explain to you how my brain and my heart work and like what I need, which you should do anyway, right? We should be doing these things. But they keep running to these situations where people are like, yeah, I buy into that. I hear you. I see you for who you are. I understand the way you are. And I'm in. Let's do it. Let's have a relationship. And then it just sometimes feels like so much struggle. You get over that initial hump of, okay, I'm not an alien to you anymore, right? You understand that we're going to have to check in about stuff. We're going to have to interact in a way that you might not be used to. Once you get over that, there's all the work of constantly reassuring that. And I think that honestly, I think this is a narrative that a lot of people who are queer in particular run into, where we're constantly having to say like, okay, like I know that you hear me. I know you understand the words I'm saying when I'm explaining how I become attracted to people or the kinds of relationships I need, but I don't know if you're understanding what I'm saying. And that feeling of not being understood can be incredibly isolating, super, super alienating. I thankfully this far into doing it, I don't feel it as acutely or as intensely as I used to. But there was a really long time where I was trying to be a straight person and I was trying to be a monogamous person and I was trying to be romantic and fake my way into feeling romantic feelings, but I just don't. I can't be in that place anymore. And that time was really hard and not something that I would want to do again. But it was a time that I learned a ton about myself, and coming to that conclusion and then struggling with it has sort of been the story of having relationships in my life. So for me, I think the sort of seed of all of it is the fact that I identify as a queer person, right? And I choose that label over like bisexual or pansexual or whatever because I just don't like taxonomies to begin with. They make me uncomfortable. So if I say, "Hi, I'm Adam, I'm a queer person," it puts me in the right vicinity, but it doesn't nail me to a particular identity. I like it because it's open, it's amorphous. It doesn't necessarily mean one thing, but can mean a lot of things. It gives me some room to say, at the very least, I don't choose the people that I get close to based on their gender. It's not a marker for me, right? I don't really, it's not that I don't care. It's just that it's not something I'm not going to be like, oh, you're a man. Stay away from me. Though, I mean, that's fair sometimes. So that core idea of like taking something that you're expected to use as an indicator of whether or not someone is relationship worthy for you and throwing it out immediately puts me on this kind of uneven ground, which I'm fine with. I'm okay with it. I have good balance, you know? So I think that's the core of things. Everything that I do, everything I say, and all the ways that I experience the world are through this lens of not making that decision. I'm making the opposite of a choice. I am choosing not to choose. And that for me is sort of the core of my queerness, right? And then on top of that, and I've only really come to this revelation in the last couple of years, I struggled a lot as especially as a teenager and in my early 20s with following along with the script of what a romantic relationship was supposed to look like. I don't think of myself as a very good boyfriend to anyone. In fact, I don't like being called that. I don't like having that title put on me because it implies a certain set, to me at least, of romantic and societally expected behaviors that I just don't have the script for. I don't know what to do. I have gotten in so many like arguments in the past, less so now, with like partners. Again, not a word that I would use to describe myself or anyone that I'm with anymore, but people that I was involved with where they would expect me to do something and I wouldn't do it and I wouldn't understand why they were upset, right? Someone would say, "It's our anniversary." And I would say, "Oh, so it is. Do you want to do something? Should we celebrate? What feels right for you here?" Because to me, birthdays, anniversaries, holidays, it's all horseshit. Like I just don't. Today is not any different, and I love the irony that I'm saying this on Christmas. Fuck Christmas. Today is no different for me than it will be this same day next week, right? It's just Wednesday for me. And the same is true of dates that are significant to other people. And I spent a lot of time trying to defend myself, being like, I don't know. I like you every day of the year. And when I want to do something special for you, I don't need an excuse, right? Like I'll just try to do something nice because I care about you, and getting in fights with people over that. And then also my experience with non-monogamy, which is to say not even like a specific form of it, right? Because there are sort of codified behavioral structures outside of monogamy, right? Monogamy is one option for having relationships with its own nuances, and then non-monogamy contains everything that isn't that. And I've tried so many different things within that zone, but my struggle with non-monogamy was never kind of what people expect. There's this stereotype, especially of the queer, bi, pan, like man, where they're non-monogamous because they're just slutty, right? And I don't use that word negatively. I just mean that it's promiscuity based, that they're like, I'm non-monogamous because I just want to sleep around and I want to have everything. And traditionally, the assumption is that a non-monogamous queer man in a monogamous relationship is going to be going out and finding other partners and cheating and doing that kind of stuff. But for me, the problem was always, again, in my 20s and as a teenager, my problem was always I wouldn't care if that kind of stuff happened to me. I can think of 5 or 6 different times in separate relationships where someone came to me to tearfully admit that they had made out with someone else or they'd had sex with someone else. And I said, oh, I wish you could have told me you wanted to beforehand. Like, this is a weird surprise, but like, okay, so does this change anything for us? Is our relationship different? Do you want to date them now? Can we both date you? Like, what's happening here? And in some of those, I would get yelled at. That would become an argument where I wasn't dedicated to the relationship because I wasn't screaming at them, because I wasn't getting jealous and all fired up and angry. And I think up until a couple of years ago, when I really started aggressively thinking about how I approach relationships, thinking about applying my political views, my sort of open anarchistic political views to relationships, until I started doing all that work, I just felt kind of aimless. Like I was grasping at straws, trying to find a solution for this like heartbreak problem. And now I'm operating from a place of a pretty solid understanding of my own identity. And I talked about this a little bit in an earlier video where I feel like I finally figured out some pretty key shit, right? Knowing that in this moment now, I don't like monogamy. It's not a system that works for me. Prioritizing one type of relationship over another also doesn't work. I want to treat all of my friends like they have the opportunity to become the most important person in the world to me, because they do. It doesn't matter if we are dating. It doesn't matter if we're having sex. It doesn't matter how long we've known each other. Anyone has the potential to really resonate with me, and that those things change, right? And so I think for me, the reason why monogamy never fit was that there's an implication that the person that you are paired up with is your best friend. You do everything with them. They're the most important. And then below them, there are other tiers of people. And that always felt so harmful to me. I don't want to do that to anybody. And I don't want that done to me either, right? I want to know that my relationship with somebody is the only thing that matters in that subset. Certainly, people's relationships are affected by everything that happens in their life. And that, yeah, obviously, there are people that matter more to me than others, right? I care very, very deeply about my close friends. And I would go way out of my way to help them and support them. And those people, my little anchor, my inner circle, those people are important to me because we've all put the work in. We've chosen to make those relationships important. And other people could join that group. But if somebody in that kind of inner space with me, that somebody that I've worked on, if they said to me, I don't want you hanging around with some new friend of yours, I would tell them, I appreciate that. I'd like to hear why you think that, but that's not your decision to make. So non-monogamy for me isn't just about dating a bunch of people. It's the opposite. In fact, I hate that. I don't want to date anybody. It's just about freeing myself up to treat every relationship like its own unique thing. And there are challenges to that, and there are problems as far as that goes in terms of how people expect to have relationships and what relationships look like. But for me, that flows into my queerness really well, where I don't care about the activities that I do in a relationship. And I don't care about somebody's gender as a function of choosing them to be in a relationship with me. I want things to develop naturally and organically and to be what they are, and then to be allowed to change, right? I think that's really hard for relationships. So all of this stuff is part of why I think things like letting people identify as the gender that they want to identify as, the thing that they feel. We want to allow people to live their truth, because while I might be a cis person, right? I don't have that kind of like gender struggle in that I haven't had to reorganize. The gender I was given when I was born fits. I've had to do a ton of work when it comes to figuring out how to have relationships with people. And while it's been exhausting and it's sort of frustrating getting to the point where I'm like, I'm 36, I wasted so much of my life not knowing this stuff. It makes me feel like it's my responsibility now to be like, listen, whatever way feels good for you to have relationships, find people who match that and don't second guess yourself, right? I mean, I'm not saying just like pick a thing and be that thing forever and never question it. I'm saying don't let societal pressure, don't let doubt, don't let your family tell you like that's not a real thing, because you get one opportunity to be a person, right? Whatever age you are now, wherever you live now, whatever's happening in your life now, that moment will blow away, right? The future comes at us like a rushing river and it carries everything we ever were away with it. So enjoy it. Be who you are. Try to be comfortable with that. Don't let people tell you there is a specific way to do things. Experiment, make mistakes, try things, and don't let people browbeat you into doing something or being something that serves them more than it serves you. Because I did that for a really long time and it fucking sucks. So now I try to look at the relationships that I'm in and the friendships I have as unique individual things. I don't label people. I try not to label myself too much. But there are some things that fit, right? I'm a queer, aromantic person. Those things are important to me and become more important as time goes on because they help me center myself in terms of looking at how I'm going to move through the world. My actions might change, the way I see myself might change, but doing that thinking is super important. So do what feels good to you, but try to understand why it feels good when you're having these relationships and you're going out into the world and you're meeting people. Do research, read books, talk to people who are different from you. Ask them why. Why do you do things this way? Why does this feel good for you? That kind of interrogative attitude, I think, is so valuable in being a well-rounded person. And to that end, Hot for Teacher, for me, is a way both to examine that for myself and to help encourage people to get over that feeling of being pressured. A lot of that show is just me reassuring people, yeah, you're not the only one that feels this way. And even if you are, that's okay. Even if you're the only person in the whole world with your own unique outlook on relationships, that'd be fine. And it's a good thing too, because that's true. I don't think there is a standard narrative. I think even if you took 50 couples who are in straight, monogamous, childbearing, cohabitating relationships, and you compared those relationships and how they work, they'd be pretty goddamn different. So I guess for me, it's about recognizing the unique. It's about recognizing what is important between me and another person. What value is there? How does that relationship make both of our lives better? And I try to use that as my guide point for moving through the world. It's a hard thing because I think that sometimes you run into demands. You run into things that people will say, they're like, I need this to be happy. And the hardest thing in the world is to say, if I try to give that to you, I'm going to be unhappy, right? Having clear boundaries, it's important. I'm still really bad at it. You know, I would rather people felt that I was useful and kind and good than they had to do the work to like, I'm working on it. Boundaries are a priority for me in the new year. Maybe it's another thing for my resolutions list. But I don't know. I feel like I'm going to have this situation where the longer my life goes on, the better I understand it. And that's a nice feeling, but man, I'd love a do-over. Not because I fetishize being young, but I'm just so much smarter than I used to be. And I feel bad for past me for having to suffer so much to get me where I am. I guess all I can do is try to enjoy it. And to that end, I'm going to stop vlogging and I'm going to go and eat dinner, which is a important thing to do. I'm going to go and reinforce my relationship with myself because I haven't eaten today. So I'm gonna go do that. I'm gonna stop talking. All right. See you tomorrow, everybody.